Alright, folks. Today we're gonna do another video, history video, of course, because I haven't done it in like 2 days now. All right, let's start. So this one specifically, Cold War again. Let's go on to our first point of interest, Germany. Obviously, the loser of both world wars, the one that suffered the most damage, and did it twice. All right, they lost Prussia. It was given to Poland. All right. And also Kaliningrad, which is East Prussia. All right, now let's keep it moving. Now Germany obviously was split in half. All right, the smaller bit, the Democratic Republic, the German Democratic Republic (GDR), Soviet Union satellite state, and then the Federal Republic of Germany, U.S. satellite state. Because both of them were very aligned to one side. And Berlin, even though it was in full territory of the GDR, obviously, part of it actually belonged to the FDR, Federal German Republic, because it's Berlin, the capital, for centuries now. Now to keep it moving, obviously, not really many people liked the GDR, right? No one really liked living in communism, right? Everything was sucked. We didn't have much food. People were starving. It wasn't very nice. But in Berlin, though, before the Berlin Wall, you could just walk straight through. All right, you could walk straight into West Berlin, and West Berlin obviously aligned with the West. And then you take a train or a bus or a plane out into the FDR, and you go beyond. So the Germans, communist sympathizers, were like, no. So, in the end, they built a wall. Some people jumped over it. They built better walls, add guard dogs, landmines, watchtowers, 100-meter death strip where it's just sand, alright, just sand. And, there were guards, armed guards, bunkers and everything, alright? Some people still escaped somehow, which was hot air balloons, canals, and one recorded case of a person crashing a stolen tank through the wall, which was very insane, all right? Crashing a stolen tank through the wall. However, it was obviously still very risky, all right? Only about 5,800 people escaped from the building of the Berlin Wall to 1990, all right, which is when it was officially reunified. So, 138 people attempted to escape. They didn't commit suicide. They just died, which sucked, all right? Obviously, the wall didn't just separate Berlin. It separated the world because, that became a symbol of communist repression, right? The communists already had, a bad hindsight about them. Because, just like the U.S. nowadays. But then the Berlin Wall made it worse, right? Because, it strengthened, Prime Minister Winston, Prime Minister of the United Kingdom's thing about the Iron Curtain, which was how the European nations were split. All right, everything from Finland to Federal Republic of Germany, and everything from that's Western aligned, and the other side, obviously communist aligned. It's very split. All right, there's not much going on that's making it merge together. So that's the first point, right? It was officially reunited in October 1990, and obviously the communist Soviet Union, it collapsed in 21 sovereign states soon after. Now, second part is, of course, American influence. So, American influence spread everywhere. However, it was American influence, not American exceptionalism, all right? So, American exceptionalism and Pax Americana, basically means that, we as America, one of the strongest powers on the planet, our sole duty is to protect every other democratic nation and, lead the world, alright? So basically it was like, okay, I do all my job here, you gotta listen to me, I'm gonna help you guys. However, with the Korean War, which didn't affect much, but the Vietnam War, that is, obviously, where everything screwed up. Because, sadly, it tarnished the U.S. reputation, all right? So influence, obviously, they had a lot of influence. Philippines, Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, Japan, Taiwan, South Korea, many nations that were, Western aligned. But, Vietnam tarnished reputation because, the horrors that were seen. It's called the living room war for a reason. People were actively recording atrocities. All right, there were cameras back then. So the atrocities committed by obviously the American side, because us Vietnamese, we obviously commit war crimes. No side is winning. All right, war is a terrible thing. Don't support war. So we commit war crimes, but well, they weren't known until we actively admitted them. They, however, were actively recorded, and were obviously it was transferred back into the network of TV all across the U.S., which turned public opinion against it. It flipped. Counterculture was invented. Woodstock Festival 1969. It was like stop this war and stuff. Bring the people back. Students for a Democratic Society. SDS. They obviously protested. There were police riots in Chicago, blah, 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 right? The sort. So, yeah, in the end, the Cold War was just a geopolitical mess, all right? Of attempted ideological dominance, proxy wars, etc. So, yeah. Thanks for listening to my video. I hope you have a good day, and goodbye. See you next time.